Thanks for joining me on episode 988 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Heather Hyman from Sweet Tea Social Marketing. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to reach others is key, and one way to be inspired to do just that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend Scott Mader.
Now you usually are beginning to see more success and more results, but you begin to have to focus in on, have you really built the thing that you want? This is why it's so important to do that hard work of making sure that you're building what you want from the beginning, that you're pointing at the right place.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about developing your influence by stewarding your time, I talk with you about how long it takes to get success. I also share why way too many people give up before success comes, and I talk with you about what you can expect instead of what the get-rich-quick folks tend to show.
As we talk about stewarding your time, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without just taking too long? Turns out you can. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show just that quick. If you enjoy the show when you are ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon.
I work with a lot of small business owners, and I work with other people as a lay servant on spiritual development. And one of the questions that I get asked is, how long does it take to actually get successful? I work with other coaches on starting their coaching business. I myself, of course, transitioned to having a full-time business. And it's a question I ask myself, too. How long will it take to get success? We've talked before about actually being clear and defining success for yourself, and I'll talk some more about that tomorrow. But at this point, let's just assume that you've got an idea or a target for what you want from your business. Let's say you've done the work of defining what you want in this area of spiritual growth, of business, of relationship success. It really doesn't matter what it is. How long does it take to get the results you want? One of the truths that's out there is we celebrate and put forward these ideas of overnight success. This person started from nothing and now they're a famous movie star or actor, or they're a famous singer, or they've got a successful business. We hold up this idea of the self-made person who has an overnight path to success. And I've talked to literally hundreds of millionaires and hundreds of successful business owners and lots of very famous or popular or powerful people. And the interesting thing is, none of them, even the ones that people say were an overnight success, were actually an overnight success. Instead, there were years, often decades of work that went in before they became that success that we see. The truth is, in the first year of just about anything, if you set forward to learn more about business, if you set forward to develop yourself spiritually, if you step forward and decide that you want to work on your relationships, the first year of doing anything is hard. You probably won't see much success from the business. You won't be earning a lot of money, even though you're working 8, 10, 12, even 16 hours a day. You won't see the results coming in. And that's frustrating. You'll begin to, if you're working on yourself spiritually, you'll begin to question yourself. You'll begin to question the purpose that you have. And you won't really get many clear answers. And that's because the first year of anything is hard. That's part of the joy of learning something new. But all too often, what we do instead is we give up during that hard period because we want things to come easy. After all, the world has told us that others did it overnight. So why can't we? And you begin to question yourself and challenge yourself, and often you quit. What's truth is that first 5 years is often a time of growth. It's a time when you begin to practice what you're doing. You maybe get a little bit of success, and then maybe that falls back. You have to rebuild and redo and refocus all of the time. You're still working long hours. Yes, you're starting to get some results, but the results are often not what we want. I'm in that period myself with this podcast. I've been doing it for almost 3 years now, and I've got a lot more success than when I started, but it's still not where I want it to be. I'm that way with my business. I went full-time in 2017. I'm still in that period where I'm finally beginning to see some results and see some success beyond what I thought I was going to. It's still not where I want it to be, but I'm constantly growing and learning and tweaking. That happens with spiritual development, where you begin to get more peace, but there's still periods and moments when you're not sure if you really are doing what you think you should be doing. And then after you cross that 5-year period, oftentimes at that point, you begin to have to focus in because time becomes such a valuable resource. Now you usually are beginning to see more success and more results, but you begin to have to focus in on, have you really built the thing that you want? This is why it's so important to do that hard work of making sure that you're building what you want from the beginning, that you're pointing at the right place. Because at this point, it becomes much harder to begin to make a shift because you've built something that's working, even if it's not the best thing. This is really different than what is sold a lot. If you tune into YouTube or you pay attention to the infomercials or you look out there at a lot of self-development books, they picture the idea of get rich quick, get fast results. And I am a big component of putting things into practice quickly. But actually, I do that with the idea that most of those things are going to fail. But that's the job, to test and find out what does work. And it's hard to have hundreds of failures and one success. It's hard to put in the 12 to 16-hour days for a year or more while you're building something. It's hard to see something that's working and throw it out or redesign it because you want something that's working better or that's more in alignment with where you really want to go. It's hard to run experiments and take risk, but it's worth it. And that's so different than the message that you get sent all too often today, where it's all about do it fast, get rich quick, and everyone can have an overnight success. And the truth is, you can have success, but only if you're willing to do the work. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of time, be sure to sign up for our Stewardship of Time Tips series by going to inspiredstewardship.com/time or texting 44222 time tips, and that'll get you our best tips on stewarding your time. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.